As I mentioned in the last video, one of the things that the Archbishop needs to do is hear from you, hear from those whose rights can be affected before we become one canonical parish. So, what are your rights? Canon law lists many rights that you have, and I want to highlight some very important ones here. First, canon law says that you have a right to make known to pastors your needs, especially your spiritual ones, and your desires. In a very real way, canon law says that you have a right to tell your pastor what it is that you need, what it is that you want. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that you always get what you want, right? You can share what it is that you want or need, but that doesn't mean it'll always happen. But you do have the right to make that known. And I've seen in bulletin articles that your pastor does a very good job of making himself open to you to share what it is that you happen to need or want. What are some other rights that you have? Canon law also says that in a church, you, the faithful, you have a right of entry for the exercise, and especially the public exercise of divine worship. What does this mean? It means that you have a right to enter the church. Now, this doesn't mean that you can enter the church anytime, day or night, that you happen to want to. If you were to call me at 1 a.m. and say, Father Chris, I have a right to enter the church, come unlock the door, I'm going to tell you I'm going back to sleep, right? So you have a right to enter the church. You have a right to access the church for divine worship. That doesn't mean any time, day or night, but you do have a right to enter the church for worship. What does this mean? This is so important. As we become one canonical parish, it means that the church buildings have to remain open for divine worship for you. That means that we will continue to be using churches for Mass and to worship God. This is so important, and just as an assurance that as we move toward becoming one canonical parish, for you to know that canon law says you have a right to enter the church buildings. What other rights do you have? You have a right to receive the sacraments. And canon law also says that sacred ministers, priests, deacons, and bishops, it says that sacred ministers cannot deny the sacraments to those who seek them at the appropriate times and are properly disposed. What does this mean? You have a right to receive the sacraments. Now, this doesn't mean that you have a right to receive the sacraments always and in the way that you happen to want to receive them. If someone comes to me as I'm getting ready to walk down the aisle to celebrate Mass and says, Father, I'd like you to hear my confession now, I can reasonably say, I'm sorry, not right now. I'm walking down the aisle to say Mass, right? So there are appropriate times and ways to receive them. We have to be appropriately disposed. But what does this mean for us as we're becoming one canonical parish? It means that you have a right to receive the sacraments, and you will continue to have the opportunity to receive the sacraments just as you always have. We will be offering Mass. You will be able to have your children baptized. You will be able to get married. You will be able to be anointed, to have your confession heard. We will continue to do all of these things. In the end, what does all of this mean? We can see that as we become one parish, canon law makes it clear that your rights will continue to be respected as we continue our collaboration together. And remember, your voice matters. You matter. The reason canon law gives all of these names, all of these rights that you have, is because you matter. It's a way of respecting your dignity in the church. Your voice matters. As I mentioned, that the Archbishop needs to hear from those whose rights can be affected. The Archbishop should hear from you. So, as I mentioned, we have many ways that you can share your feedback, that you can make your voice heard. There's a link on the website to share your feedback. We will be having information sessions and live Q&A, and all of this will be shared with the Archbishop. And I look forward to hearing what your feedback is too. I look forward to hearing what your fears and concerns might be, but even more, I'm looking forward to hearing your feedback and to hear how this collaboration that we've already done as a parish family, how this collaboration has been a benefit, the good that you have seen in the work that we are doing together. I look forward to hearing your feedback on this, and I look forward to continuing to move forward with you together.